I need support staff to clear the room. Stand up and walk now.
Hello and welcome to The Watch. My name is Chris Ryan. I am an editor at theringer.com, and joining me in the studio, E-A-G-L-E-S, it's Andy Greenwald!
This is, a moment ago you were like, I gotta modulate my voice.
Oh my God, only
Not
one
today,
talking about
brother.
Severance, dog. What's up, man? Andy, do you know what my favorite novel by Marilyn Robinson is?
Tell me.
Housekeeping. Let's just do a little bit of that.
Oh.
First of all, I just want to let everybody know you can watch us on YouTube at Ringer-TV. You can also watch us now on Spotify. So at your Spotify feed where you listen to The Watch, you can also watch us on Spotify or on Spotify Video. Follow us on Instagram at TheWatchPod_. Email us and tell us everything you like and don't like about the show at thewatch@spotify.com. And I think that's it.
Listen to us on the Ringer's Philly special last week.
Seriously, the crowning achievement of Andy's life. Maybe she will have us back for a reflective pod later in the week.
I texted Sheil yesterday.
Although Bill is now calling me the pod slut, so I may have to dial it back a little bit, get into more of a scarcity kind of economy.
I texted Sheil because I'm keeping receipts.
Here's how the show is going to go today. Andy and I are going to talk, I don't know for how long, about the actual Super Bowl.
Sorry, not sorry. Welcome to everyone on Spotify.
We are going to talk about the game, but we'll also talk a little bit about the trailers that were debuted or teased on the broadcast. And we'll talk a little bit about the TV aspect of it. And then Severance, episode 4.
Okay.
A walk in the woods there.
So that'll be like the last 2 minutes of the pod? How
Don't
can
tip your hand, dog.
How can I steer this? Okay.
Greenwald.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me over yesterday.
Thanks for coming over. A calming presence, a great guest as always.
I don't know if that's exactly true. I wanted to ask you about that because...
Well, can I stop you for 1 second?
Yeah, sure.
We fucking won the Super Bowl. Okay, sorry. Go on.
I feel like, I am very even keel on everything about this stuff, but there was, you know how like actual athletes talk about how you remember the losses more than you treasure the wins?
That sounds like Jalen
The
Hurts
losses
speak.
haunt you more than you treasure the wins.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of get that because 17 was such an electric feeling where I like lost my mind and my face fell off.
You did.
Yeah.
You really got up.
The last time against the Chiefs, I had COVID and I was by myself. So I was just kind of like, that sucked. And I turned it off and then like didn't read a novel I was trying to read. And this time I was like, this shit is over in 25 minutes. And now I have to like basically.
It was weird.
I sat there for a while being like, well, I bet the Falcons fans were feeling this way against the Patriots a couple years ago. But like.
We had a Falcon fan with us. We had Rembert with us.
But yeah, I thought it was just like a comprehensively entertaining evening. And
you like the tacos?
The chicken was appropriately moist.
Oh, great call on that.
But
Yeah,
not
I did
wet.
have to keep. No.
And that verde sauce you made was like, like a little tip of your cap to the Eagles.
Thank you. Yeah. Salsa verde for the day. That's very nice of you to notice. We're also wearing a lot of green today.
Thank you for your hospitality. You were a great host. But yeah, I feel like I was like, I was almost like vengeful against the Chiefs. Like I was just sitting there and I was just like, I want this to hurt.
I did. First of all, you did. This bit is getting older. Last week you were like, something came out of me at the end of the Washington game where I wanted them to be placed on the physically unable to perform list. Doggone it.
I'm not your dad.
And then, no, but this is you trying to modulate your
Patrick Mahomes
your
is going to feel that in the morning. Yeah.
My dad's a Lions fan, so let's leave him out of it for a week. I think that, first of all, you should be honest with our listeners.
Yeah.
You hate the Chiefs.
Yeah, I do. I like to call them pure evil.
Yeah, I think they are evil. So there was an extra little bit of juice for you. I'll say that this was my dream football game.
I know, it was kind of strange to watch it with you because it was like, look at this kid getting everything he wants.
I was so happy. We grew up watching
8 Nights of Hanukkah. Like bang, right there.
We grew up watching Super Bowl blowouts, and that's what other teams would do. Certainly never our team. It did leave us a little bit like energy confused, I would say, because the first half was so exciting. And then Kendrick did to Drake what the Eagles did to the Chiefs. And then we just kept doing it to the Chiefs after. And I've had a bunch of people ask me today, like, "Oh, are you hungover from celebrating?" And I'm like, "I'm 47. Like, I had to keep it measured."
This is
but also,
West Coasters lament.
well, there's two parts to it. One is we definitely have massive FOMO that we're not climbing greased poles in Philadelphia right now.
The people singing along to Meek Mill at 3 a.m. on Broad Street are my brothers for life.
The idea of like, let's go to a bar in Highland Park, and everyone would be like, "Oh, was there a game today?" I
would have gone to the Greyhound. I definitely would have.
I know, but the other thing that was weird was that because I had so much nervous tension at the beginning of the game, even though I am on record as saying I thought they would win and maybe even have a blowout.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to drink too much at the beginning. And then usually the anxiety fuels, what do I do with my hands? I know I'll fill them with bottles of beer, which I will empty indiscriminately into my face. But weirdly, I was being kind of responsible. And then also we had so much time
to hosting. That was the other thing.
But we also had, but I was still like white knuckling from the beginning. But we also had opportunities to have conversations like we've never had before, just like about like what's the resistance really going to do this time? And also, more specifically, you can't leave when this is over. We have to have a drink. And then you were like, I'm saving my bullets for when we have our celebratory drink. So I was like, I better crush water.
Yeah.
For the third quarter.
Yeah.
So I was getting way too in my head. But
we did a shot.
We did do a shot.
Yeah.
And I opened some champagne.
Yeah.
That you did not partake in.
I don't like champagne that much.
That's because you're not used to
sours my stomach.
You're not used to the taste. Because we don't win enough.
We win plenty.
You need
honestly, and now it's starting to get a little bit weird because Philadelphia legend, like typically an underdog chip on the shoulder city franchises, we're starting to get our beaks wet a little bit.
I don't mind it. I think you should begin to live like Ben Wishaw's character in Black Doves, which is champagne all the time and also be proficient with a shotgun. I feel so happy for this team because I love them as people.
Yeah.
And I'm thrilled.
I will say that I think I celebrated Milton Williams strip sack, Jalen Carter full-on shot to the face on Mahomes.
Yeah.
I celebrated that more than the actual victory. Like, I think that was when my barbaric yawp came out.
It did. It did. I mean, I look.
What was your favorite moment?
What I want from my quarterback is just
you can
collected.
Honestly, you can now lord this over me. If you want. Do you want to do it now?
No moment is too big for him.
Okay.
He's a winner.
I
have no doubt that he was
I will never say another bad thing about him. He's in my cool book forever.
Also,
he is not cool, but he is in my cool book.
What was wild was how quickly America's darling team just looked like losers who had their hearts ripped out. Like they looked real sad starting in like the first or second quarter.
We can't beat them.
Yeah, that's cool. That's awesome. I love that. It was, but it is also just to harken back to those Super Bowls of yore that you and I grew up watching where San Francisco would score like 50 points before halftime.
Yes.
At least this is how I remember them. There was always the refrain that Super Bowls were bad football, like a fun party day, good commercials, but a bad game.
That was the inverse for us.
And we've gotten spoiled for the last few years with good games, even though we lost a heartbreaker 2 years ago.
Who will forget that 7-3 Rams Patriots game?
But this year was the most unique thing for us, which is most of America probably thought this was a bad football game. When this is my platonic ideal of a football game. I loved all of it. Which in turn, like I wasn't really zeroed in on the other hoopla.
Like our commander-in-chief being at the game?
Our commander-in-chief running scared when his
beloved Red Army
did not make it through. I did appreciate that. Do you think, so some other random observations about the game, not sports related. Do you think this is the worst day of Paul Rudd's life? And I say that because I feel like he has a wonderful life and I do not wish ill upon him. But the camera did find him a lot in his booth.
That's a great question. I mean, I wondered how they sussed out that Haim was going to lead the Chiefs out.
Like how he got the nod over Rudd?
Do you think it's just straight Landman? It's not
Landman. It's your friends and neighbors in the Apple halftime show.
That's true.
He has a show coming up on Apple, so that's why it's his turn. Did you hear, I didn't know this, that Bill said that Haim grew up a St. Louis Rams fan because he's from St. Louis.
And it switched allegiances because the Rams moved?
When the Rams left, even though he himself came to Los Angeles.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Physician, heal thyself.
I'm just saying.
While you still can, yeah.
Bradley Cooper and son led our team, the victorious team.
Yes.
How do you feel about the honestly surprise revelation that Annie Hathaway is gangrene.
I love you using Annie as if we get drinks with her every Wednesday.
I met her once. Other people called her Annie, not me.
I did not know that she had that in the bag. I didn't know that she was honestly an Eagles fan, but she seemed delighted.
Yeah.
It all kind of shook out on the right side yesterday. I mean, even I'm not trying to just saying it was pretty fun watching Taylor get booed a little bit.
Oh, careful.
Wasn't it?
Careful. I made a passing comment about how the way she stands up at award shows the other day, and I saw that our listenership took umbrage at my unfair characterization of her, just by saying that she certainly does seem to find the camera and stand up. So I would be careful. Especially in my household. My older daughter was just texting me Chiefs images.
Yeah, I wasn't into that.
For what it's worth, on the record, did not watch the game.
I feel like I tried. I was suggesting some trash talk, perhaps inappropriate. Yeah,
perhaps. Yeah.
Okay. What else? I mean, did you have a favorite moment aside from that strip sack? Was it the Smitty touchdown?
Yeah, the touchdown.
We
to
don't have
Devontae
to
Smith,
do actual tape watching here.
No, we're going Philly special, I think, to do this. But one of the greatest. Well, speaking of my children, I did say like this is the greatest day of my life, and the pause was too long before I said the third greatest day. Like
the first two being 2017,
exactly, and the Phillies World Series championship. I did let that linger.
Iverson game 1 of the NBA Finals.
Oh, that was actually my favorite. I'm taking off one of my green layers, by the way. I do regret that. No, I liked it when we sacked Mahomes once, then we sacked him again, and then on 3rd and 16, Cooper DeJean picked him off and returned it for a touchdown.
That was good.
That was
on his birthday.
That was a great moment for me.
Yeah, as an exciting white.
And all the exciting whites. What a great time.
It was awesome. Did you want to talk at all about Kendrick? I enjoyed it, but also felt like the supercomputer was processing other data while it was happening. Do you know what I mean?
Well, let's talk about the character that you were threatening to debut yesterday. You showed up and you said, "What if I raw dogged the Super Bowl?" Now, some people listening are aware that there was like a trend piece that people are like raw dogging long flights,
yes,
which means
you just look at the back of the seat or the map.
You just sit there.
They made Danny Kelly the Ringer Fantasy Football show that Danny Kelly came in last place in like some playoff pick'em thing, and so he had to raw dog the flight from New Orleans to Los Angeles.
Did he?
Yeah.
How'd he do?
Seems like he did fine.
You just sit there like Idris Elba in the first episode of Hijack, right? And you do nothing.
Yes.
Except for however long the flight is. So your idea was that you would come to my Super Bowl party, consume nothing,
maybe water, and not make any conversation.
No, and then at halftime, instead of watching Kendrick, you said that you would retreat to a back bedroom
to watch tape
and just crush tape. I think this character has legs.
Oh God, the world's most popular Super Bowl party guest,
just staring,
the ball knower,
staring daggers. So you felt like were you really wondering whether like Andy Reid would like unlock Fangio's too high safety system in the second act? That's the second half.
There was no lead big enough in the end of the first half for me not to be like they're gonna go in the locker room at halftime and come up with some. They're gonna be like, this is what they're doing, so we have to do this.
Right.
And then just come out and score like two quick touchdowns.
And then it all starts to get a little tight.
And I just honestly, like, I can't imagine being in a room with you while that was happening.
Oh, wait, by the way, savvy listeners are noticing you were more nervous than I was, but you're turning it back on me.
I didn't know where to put the emotion because it went
right here, brother.
Everything went the right way. So like when everything is breaking your way.
You're not used to that.
Yeah, I was used to like, I was just really anticipating. Sure, in the dream world of dream worlds, Kenny Pickett is in the game at the end, like taking snaps.
The second Kung Fu Kenny of the day. Yeah, he was.
But instead, I was like, oh, it'll be close, and it's Mahomes, and it's the refs, and who knows, and it's like weird neutral. Didn't matter.
I thought Kendrick was amazing. I thought the theatricality of it was wild. I thought, like, I just remembered as it was starting, I remembered it was probably a Hollywood Reporter or something article now almost 10 years ago being like, what is the next generation of Super Bowl halftime shows going to look like? Because we've pretty much exhausted the baby boomer classic rock generation of
Springsteen.
Yes,
type
Springsteen,
guys. Yeah.
Prince, like who that well is pretty much tapped dry. So other than having Chris Martin from Coldplay on standby, like what will these shows look like? And I think one of the gist of the argument was
Get Jawbreaker back together the last time.
So that would have been everything going right for you.
Imagine the Smiths.
The Smiths and Jawbreaker were the special guests, not Serena Williams crip walking. Like everything is for you today, Chris. And one of the questions asked by this piece was like, can a straight up hip hop artist have the halftime show, or does it need to be mitigated with like an artist who has pop songs, or a hip hop artist is a guest on someone else's whatever?
Yeah.
Does it need to be like a traditional 4-quadrant entertainer? And I was thinking about that while Kendrick Lamar just called Drake a pedophile and has no radio hits really, other than like Humble and maybe the Black Panther song, and then Not Like Us, which just conquered radio.
Is like the biggest hit, yeah. Right.
But what is in no way is a traditional radio play. Like Jay-Z had to make Empire State of Mind. Kendrick does not do that.
No.
So that was wild to see.
Yes.
And then the theatricality of it in the sense of like the choreography, the imagery, Samuel L. Jackson, the way that it used the length of the field in a way that I'm not used to seeing. And maybe I'm not used to seeing it because so much of it is filmed for the camera, designed, choreographed for the camera.
See, that was
actually... We're going from like platform to platform, but this looked long.
This was my big takeaway, was that it felt very much like a piece of a performance design, especially for TV.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder whether or not that's because Kendrick's music is so intricate, and also like his catalog for his fans and for like a lot of people are like very familiar with Kendrick's music, but it isn't like Born to Run or Poker Face, or whatever. It's going to be like something that you really want to see the performer performing the actual music rather than like this elaborate like fireworks going off as they come in from
he's also not a showman. He's a showman in terms of how he entertains in his career, like in terms of like gladiator style, but he's charismatic and he's magnetic, but he's not like a big bombastic showman. Everything is small, concentrated, and precise, including his just smile to camera.
I guess if I was trying to think, if I was really building out this character that I have of raw dogging the Super Bowl,
let's go.
Zagging to Drake at that very moment would have been a cool wrinkle. If I was just like, I'm gonna go back,
amazing,
and listen to the early mixtapes.
Yeah, just take your laptop back to
when I'm not watching tape, I'm doing a chronological Drake re-listen.
You take your laptop back to Marvin's room and really crush the tape there. I think that would have been an amazing move by you. I thought it was really surprising and really good. And I thought, was it someone on The Ringer today wrote a piece about how this was the Super Bowl for the victory of haters. I like that. You want to talk a little bit about some of the trailers, or is there any more game stuff you wanted to talk about? Yeah, we can talk trailers. Like, do you think we're not the ones to wonder what Ice Spice and Haim felt like as the third
straight
quarter?
Up, man. What the fuck? How is Haim wearing fucking Chiefs gear? Like, you don't have. Is that like a requirement to get into the box?
I would think so.
That's corny.
It's super corny.
Yeah, I like Haim.
Yeah,
but like, stay in your lane. Like show up with some Chargers gear. That's fine. But like,
yes,
dog, that's not cool. You guys are from the Valley.
Do you know what I respect? Like when they did the thing where they show the international fan base watching the Super Bowl, and they cut to like Istanbul, and there's a kid just pointing to his Raiders jersey.
He's got a hair transplant.
He's got Travis Kelce's old scalp, but he's wearing a Raiders jersey. I respect it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You just have to. Our queen, Kylie Kelsey, did this last year where she's like, I want Trav to be happy.
But I will never wear another team's shit.
Hell yeah.
And I'm not saying Alana.
Mm-hmm.
I think Alana was just chilling. I think Esty and Danielle were wearing Chief stuff.
Look at you self-selecting out your preferred Haim sister. You're like, the one that's down with PTA is cool. Fuck the other two.
Hey.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she is in the next movie.
She's the one. That's where you're pushing your chips.
I like Alana. Yeah.
I mean, I like all of them probably, but this was corny. I agree.
Yeah.
We were also not paying total attention to commercials, but...
Oh, we were.
Well, generally...
Multiple trailers about body dysmorphia.
That's what I wanted to say.
Where it's just like mustaches flying off and eyebrows flying off.
And tongues flying off.
Yeah. It's fucking bizarre. It was like watching The Substance.
Keep that shit in Istanbul. If you're swapping that stuff out, go across an ocean. Don't put it on my
Keep
screen.
it on the down low.
Like we used to be a society.
Yeah.
Speaking, I mean, it did seem like our country is deeply sick. I would say from
For
these
sure.
commercials.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it really. I
Powered
continue.
by Christ in the oil industry. We are.
Yeah, did you like your Landman commercial
It
where
was
the guy's
fucking
like,
incredible.
"You want to have a baby? You better thank Papa Petroleum for these
All of
chairs."
there's a lot of talk on the streets about how these electric cars,
The streets of the 3.6s,
the streets
4.6s
of the
ranch.
Permian Basin.
Go on.
No,
Well,
never mind.
I was surprised to see
That guy being like, the reason why
Mhm.
this EKG meter like works is because of the oil and gas industry was awesome. That was incredible.
And yet, Harrison Ford, his, I believe, 18-minute commercial for Jeep that did feature some kind of woke shots of him plugging one of them in. I was surprised that made it through.
Yeah. Well, I was just bummed that they didn't cut to him being Red Hulk at one point.
In that commercial.
They're like, what kind of Jeep does Red Hulk like to drive?
A fucking big one.
Yeah. Cherokee with the top off so he can get his shoulders up in there.
Do you have the same vibe that I do coming? I mean, I said this the other week, but like, I just have there is like a last call at the money bar vibe to all of this stuff right now with just like.
We've been saying that for like 15 years.
That's what I mean. When I say stuff like that, are you like, everybody's always in everything now? Commercials are no longer taboo.
I was
for
happy
certain
to see a
celebrities?
decent Nike commercial, honestly.
Did you see the Jalen one?
Yeah, Jalen one and the Sabrina and Caitlin one.
That was good.
Yeah.
There's a certain tier of performer or celebrity where it's like Willem Dafoe and Catherine O'Hara for the
that is the
Landman
major
beer.
difference between when we were kids and now is like the actors just do ads now all the time.
That is, but I that's totally different.
Yeah.
But I also don't mind them getting a paycheck to maybe get a country house. or
Did you
something.
think Jeremy Strong really unwound his reputation as a difficult method actor?
Do you think he's been accepted back?
Yeah.
There's a certain level of, it has gone too far for me with the sense that like brands pay $4 million for like a half spot and the spot is go online and watch our commercial. I'm like, you make donuts.
Well, speaking of
relax.
which,
I'm not going to watch your commercial.
they did that with the Thunderbolts ad.
Yeah, I
The
watched that.
Thunderbolts trailer.
Where
they were like,
I am the problem.
The trailer is out now. So let's talk about some of these trailers.
Okay.
I came away
Mm-hmm.
after watching all of this stuff from last night way more excited about Thunderbolts than I thought I was going to be.
Yes.
I thought it was a cool trailer.
Uh-huh.
I did some research on this film.
Okay, I'm ready to step in at any time if you need some.
It's not that kind of research.
Mm.
I found out that Watch Rookie of the Year, Lewis Pullman, is the
Sentry.
antagonist in this film.
The Sentry in this trailer revealed as the villain. Of the film.
And that he is currently dating Kaya Gerber, one of the world's great readers.
You didn't learn that from your research. We
No, I
learned
learned that from...
Watch superfan Amanda Dobbins, I
Yeah.
believe, texted us that.
So shout out to him. What does the Sentry do?
So the Sentry, and by the way, this is an interesting part because Stephen Yeun was supposed to play the
Oh, I
part
didn't
and then
know
dropped
that.
out of the film, and Lewis Pullman jumped in. Sentry is like many good, relatively recent comic book creations, the product of a rare moment when people could just fuck around a little bit. So 20 plus years ago, when Marvel was in pre-movies, pre-MCU, the comic book line was in a deep state of flux, and a guy named Joe Quesada, who was an artist, he ran sort of like a little shadow fiefdom within the company briefly called Marvel Knights that led to a Rebirth in Daredevil, that a lot of the TV original Netflix show was pulling from that run. He greenlit a writer named Paul Jenkins' idea, which was, I would like to create a Marvel character who is hugely important and woven into the fabric of the, at that point, 40 plus years of Marvel continuity, but no one remembers him.
That's
for a
pretty
reason. And the character is like a Superman-like figure.
Why does nobody remember him?
I don't want to spoil the comic, but it was basically in order to defeat his supervillain, he had to be forgotten. And so he went into, so in this miniseries.
It's like Severance.
It's just like Severance. And it was very cool. It was a very cool idea. And it led to it led to people having fun with like, oh, this is when the Sentry and Captain America teamed up, and this is when Captain America and the Hulk, Sentry and the Hulk teamed up in the past in key moments of these characters' development.
Zelig action.
It is, that's the reference I'm looking for. You're like, Severance? No, that's not it. It's like Zelig. That's why people tune into this podcast and not the other ones. Anyway, future other iterations of the character have made him more Shutter Island-y and kind of insane and more villain. Mainly because just, again, like his power set and what he looks like seems more DC-like. He is more like a Superman figure in the MCU.
Okay.
And so introducing him with this version that is a little bit villainous, or at least crazy, is A, interesting, and B, a nice counterpoint to what the movie's strong suit seems to be, as voiced in the trailer, which is we're a group of people who just punch and shoot, and we actually don't have
which
a lot
they
of
make
superpowers.
reference to. They're like,
Yeah,
so all
that's
we
funny.
can do is punch and shoot. So there, when the shadow is over the city,
Yeah.
is that Sentry somehow?
Or his alter ego, the Void.
Oh, okay. Because I was wondering if maybe that was like when Sokovia got lifted, and if somebody had like flown Sokovia over.
What if there? It's interesting. Do you respect the singularity of the Sokovia event, or would you
Would I like to see
appreciate
it happen again?
Yeah. Do you think that other villains could be like, the way to defeat cities is
It's
to
funny you
lift
should
them
say
up?
that. It's like winning the Super Bowl in 2017 is a singular experience,
Yeah.
but I do enjoy seeing it happen more
Now
than
you've
once.
done it again.
According to Wikipedia, Sebastian Stan has described Bucky Barnes' role within the film as akin to that of Jack Nicholson's character, Randall McMurphy, in the film One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, an individual coming into a chaotic and degenerate group whose members he finds a way to unite.
That's king shit. That's amazing. Was he coached up by the Russo brothers to say that? I
don't
respect it. Also, again, it does seem to be the theme for our coverage of the MCU this year that they seem to.
We seem very pro.
I am pivoting back. Like
Yeah.
this all seems promising. They've got some of their mojo back, and the timing is working out.
Watch
for
out,
them,
Ringerverse.
Where I'm coming for your corner. That Philly special, any pod but this one. Put me on. You know, when this movie was announced, I think we probably disparagingly said, like, this is a collection of actors who can't lead a movie. Like, these are not movie star actors. These are a B team, and maybe they'll steer into that being a B team. But I was lumping it into the same run of post-Endgame Marvel projects where it seemed to have ego to it, that they could just put anything together and make it a movie.
I think that there was also like, was this going to be a TV show? Then it was going to be a movie.
Yeah.
It's had reshoots. It's like, you know.
But one of the things that's broken their way is that Sebastian Stan is now an Oscar-nominated actor.
Yes.
Obviously, he was famous and popular because he's been in the biggest movies of the last 15 years, thanks to Bucky Barnes. But him being suddenly like, oh yeah, that guy. He is a bigger star, is a big deal. And then the Ace in the Hole being Florence Pugh being awesome and being awesome at this part makes it seem kind of fun. And it's a similar thing where like Captain America Brave New World, like its trailer during the Super Bowl was like, you should see this shit in IMAX. There's a Hulk. Like
they seem to be operating from a little bit of a position of confidence.
They have the swagger back.
Yeah, they're like Vic Fangio heading into this game. No, I think that they actually know people are going to come see that Brave New World and that they have like a little bit of breathing room.
Can I, one last thing on Thunderbolts?
Sure.
I can't decide whether this really should be an like overt part of the podcast going forward, but like my daughter's getting into the MCU now and me rewatching some of this stuff is going on.
You want this to be
my
like
story?
You're rewatching with your kids is like a big part of our pod?
I'm saying it's a big part regardless because I only watch like 4 hours of things
I think
a week
if you want to do an MCU rewatch anthology series with me as we get to Thunderbolts or something, I don't know if I can do it by Friday.
MCU, ICU. That could be our, right?
And that would be the Pit and MCU movies every episode.
That's fine.
Yeah.
No, just that I rewatched, they watched Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
And I think those movies are great and they work really well. But
they have not seen the third one.
No.
Because the overt animal torture.
Also because, as you know, Chris, I don't want to insult you, but I'll just say it for our listeners. The third one takes place after the events of Infinity War and Endgame.
Yeah.
So they're suddenly now invested in this
so
project.
They have to keep it on the right timeline here.
They have to keep it on the sacred timeline. But I bring it up to say, Guardians of the Galaxy was such a wild swing and investment on characters that people didn't care about or know about. All these Thunderbolts characters have been introduced previously, but if they leaned into that muscle that's been kind of dormant and be like, we're going to make a team of lovable outlaws found family, and like that's what they're doing, there is a track record of that.
The Eternals.
Outlaw
gods finding a family.
I think I'm first of all, I welcome this.
I can't wait till you get to the Eternals part of your rewatch because like your kids are definitely gonna like it.
This is, first of all, he'll be like, it's like has history in
it.
you bringing up the Eternals is like Spags doing Cover Zero. You just bringing it, and I can pivot.
Okay.
The Eternals was in the Imperial era where they're like, we can do anything, and we don't actually have to make this fun. We can just tell you which characters to care about, and they are not in that position anymore.
A couple other trailers that dropped. Mission Impossible Final Reckoning, which they are really leaning into the more emo vibes of this, where it's like our connection to Ethan Hunt over the decades.
Can I ask you about this? Do you think Tom Cruise has really signed off on the ad campaign being like one final swan song?
Yes, because I think that worked so well for Top Gun Maverick. And I think realistically, like, he has done 7 of these. So I think or however many. So he is starting to work with other directors. He's started to work on doing other projects. He's got an Inarritu movie coming out probably next year.
Admitting that this might
It's not admitting defeat, but I think, I think it got to the point beyond parody where is he just going to do these until he dies?
On set, making one of these.
Yeah. So
do you think Ethan Hunt survives this movie?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, they will never close the door. Just like they didn't close the door on Maverick.
Yeah.
But I think that the marketing of Maverick being like, I'm here to salute you and say goodbye to the legacy of this character was very effective, as was just fucking fighter jets flying around.
Yeah, there were a bunch of factors at play here, but I'm very excited for this movie.
Miles Teller in the post-game stuff?
No.
Miles Teller was at the game, and he has like a homie with him who's like another actor. I forgot his name, but it was like they were interviewing Miles Teller, and his friend was definitely getting his ball knowerness on. It was so cool. I would definitely, if I was friends with Miles Teller and he was like, yeah, come down to the field with me. NFL Network's gonna interview me. I'd be like, I'm definitely getting some Fangio.
You'd get some takes off?
Yeah. Mission Impossible. So I'm very excited for Final Reckoning. It's been a stunt spectacular, and that's how it's been sort of perceived for such a long time that it's interesting to be like, yes. Ethan.
Yeah, I mean, I've never engaged with these movies for plot. I cannot tell you the plot of any of them.
And Macquarie has been talking about how this is the culmination of like this 30-year story, and I'm like, this story is pretty jagged, but we'll see.
He that does seem to be his thing, though. Macquarie does like doing that. He does seem to enjoy the puzzle piecing together of like Henry Czerny showing up in that last movie, like as if this was all one thing. I don't care. Just be on the outside of an airplane again.
Jurassic World Rebirth. I've spoken at length about this, so I was curious what you thought.
Can you give me your tight 30 on why you're in on this? Because I know that you are on Front Street being like, you're in on this movie, you're in on the dinos.
I think that start with behind the camera, and I'm a Gareth Edwards fan.
You always have been.
Yeah, some Monsters and the creator and obviously he did Rogue One until he didn't. But there's some really cool stuff in Rogue One that I assume is him. And then I have a hard time believing Scarlett Johansson and Mahershala Ali would do a shit blockbuster. They just don't need to. So I hope that there's like a reason why. I just want to believe that there's like a reason why they were drawn to this, even though on the surface it is basically like the same as every Jurassic Park or World movie.
I think that's an interesting point, and one that I'm sure Sean and Amanda have and will continue
and David
to dive
Koepp wrote
into.
It. So I'm just like, David Koepp's a really good screenwriter. I hope he nailed it.
No, they invested in quality. They got good coordinators on both sides of the ball. And that's usually a recipe for success. I mean, Scarlett Johansson. The economics of the world are that Scarlett Johansson and Mahershala Ali do need a blockbuster. They need to be affiliated with something to do whatever they want to do, whether it's the art house movies they're interested in or the extension on their Hamptons house, whatever it is. They need to be affiliated with these movies.
Yes.
And Scarlett is out of the MCU, although we'll see when Secret Wars
I'm sure
comes
she
around.
will be back for the Secret Wars stuff.
And is Mahershala Ali ever going to play Blade? Do you care? I don't. So I'm not sure if it's entirely like art driven. I guess I'll be honest. I've been living in the lie too long on the mic.
You don't care about dinosaurs?
I have never engaged with any Jurassic content since the second Spielberg movie.
Do you ever rewatch the first one?
I have rewatched it. My kids are too scared
but
to watch
like
it,
every
so I
2
haven't.
years or anything like that.
No, so
it's one of my
years.
favorite blockbusters ever made. I watch it very frequently.
I loved it. I mean, I was a big. I know it's not cool, but I was a big Crichton kid. I was reading those books. I remember getting the hardcover of Rising Sun, being like, "Oh, maybe Japan is a little more
disclosure." Huh? Yeah.
Oh, wow, it goes both ways, everyone. But I read those books because of Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
And the Andromeda Strain, like I was deep in that stuff, and I like that movie a lot.
Andromeda Strain is
That's his
outbreak, a viral outbreak.
Yeah, I was like, that could never happen.
Right.
Mikey C. Vision. The Vision. That said, like so they went to the island of the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park. In Jurassic Park, Lost World, right? Dinosaurs come to us.
To San Diego, I think, yeah.
And I was like, what more stories are there to tell, truly?
Plenty.
About dinosaurs.
The only
this seems
critique
like a
I
horror.
have of this is that we are not so far from the last Jurassic World that we need a rebirth. You know, like I think that we could have let it cook for a little while, see what we could do with like technological upgrades on dinosaurs, maybe even reimagine like which dinosaurs we're showing preferential treatment to. Are we a little bit too enamored with raptors? You know, like I just think that there's a lot of species out there that we could have fucked with.
Oh, I thought you were suggesting a revisionist history, kind of like what Benioff and Weiss were going to do with Confederate.
Oh,
like a world where like the dinosaurs won. And maybe, you know, they were misunderstood.
The dinosaurs did win. There's 6 movies. They're still not extinct.
But so why can't we do what meteors did? What's our problem?
I know.
What is our innate weakness? But I guess I was surprised by the...
Also, do you know that there's like a crypto right-wing thing about how dinosaurs don't exist? And I don't think that these movies are helping combat that.
Huh.
Because it's all about like engineering them.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Oh, as if they never were real.
Well, there are dudes out there like flat earther types who are like dinosaurs aren't real. Like there was not this didn't happen.
Tell me what's the upside of that argument? Like, how do you monetize
the upside of the argument
that?
is the same as for all the arguments, is just to be like, I know better.
Oh,
you know?
Yeah, that's everybody.
I don't know how it makes you feel differently going through your life to be like, dinosaurs never walked this earth. Who gives a shit?
Profoundly what you just said. No part of my existence except a diorama I made in first grade would have been affected by the lack of dinosaurs.
It would be one less place fun to take your kids if there were never dinosaurs.
You mean Jurassic Park wouldn't exist?
No, like the natural history museums that are around the world that are fun.
I thought you were making the argument that children couldn't experience. Because the other thing I'm noticing from this trailer is that it does seem to be a prerequisite of a Jurassic protagonist to bring a child. Like that is the one nod to the Spielbergian.
Well, in most of the kids in this Jurassic universe are mad sneaky. They often are stowaways.
Oh, because they just want to get closer.
They're like, oh no, I want to see it.
Is this your kid impression? Keep going.
That's how kids sound, right? You ever notice kids be talking like this?
Kids have real high voices
when they're stowing away on boats to go to illegal Jurassic.
Isla
Nublar. Yeah, it's back.
I guess I was just sort of surprised at the vibe. All of this makes sense, like from a entertainment
We're
perspective.
spending way more time on this than I thought we would.
But it's like they just hunt the dinosaurs. There are no like good dinosaurs.
They're not hunting them. They're trying to extract DNA from them to cure cancer or whatever.
Or whatever.
Yeah. I also don't buy my right-wing thing. It's not right-wing.
Let's go.
I am suspicious that there is like a cure for Alzheimer's to be found inside of like sharks or dinosaurs.
But
which is frequently like, if we could just get this bone marrow out of this velociraptor,
but
no one would ever suffer again. Like, why?
It just wants to eat us.
But like, when you look at velociraptors, like, how do we know they don't have Alzheimer's? You know?
What if you were cured of Alzheimer's, but kind of
turned into a
little raptor-y? Do you know what I mean?
Honestly, quick twitch ability, you know, I would love to.
That's true.
Maybe at 48, I could join the Eagles.
I guess this is the last thing on this subject, but I think that
guys, I know I'm 5'7", but I am 1/16th raptor.
And yes, I did have a touch of Alzheimer's previously, but that
has been cured.
That medication
by Scarlett Johansson.
I do think that sometimes, I don't know if this has any value for our listeners, because I do think many of our listeners are our contemporaries and peers. But certain things when we talk about, like when I tell my children about VCRs, for example, and they're like just dazzled and confused. I don't think it can be overstated what a big deal it was when Jurassic Park came out, not just because of what a huge movie it was, but because it basically made a new, like, babe, wake up, new dino just dropped. like we weren't really up on velociraptors. We grew up in an era when
that was just like Stegosauruses and Brontosauruses.
Triceratops, everyone's super into, and like
T-Rex. Most of them ate plants.
Yeah. These crunched around omnivores at best.
Yeah.
And then they're like, no, there's a cool, fast one.
Yeah.
So cool and fast that they named an NBA expansion team after it.
In Canada.
Within like 2 years.
Yeah.
It was huge.
And is that historically like they found raptor bones in Canada or they just thought it was cool?
No, I think they just thought it was cool. I think they were just, weird.
Everybody in T-Dot, let us know. Why did you guys name your team the Raptors?
No disrespect, but we're just coming off of a night that kind of pointed out the way maybe one Canadian hijacked something that was cool and made it his own.
You think that they
I'm just noticing something.
stole some dinosaur valor?
Just saying.
The only last one I had was Sinners. I didn't know if you would watch the full trailer for this.
I did.
Okay.
This definitely, so this is the new Ryan Coogler movie that, you're waiting for me to say something back up.
I just want to watch you cook.
Are you on the record with this movie?
I'm very excited for this film.
I just was shocked at how double stuffed it was.
The trailer or?
Well, the trailer's like 3 minutes long.
Yeah.
It seems to give away much of the movie.
I did not watch the second trailer. I started it and then put it away because I was like, you won't companion me again. Like companion is the moment. They put the whole movie in the trailer, which is fine. It was a great movie, but it was just like I'm sick of having all of my movies spoiled for me by marketing.
I just didn't know that we had 2 Michael B's in this movie.
Mm-hmm. It's a red flag. It's a red flag.
It's worrisome.
It's one of my major. Like I just can't handle it. Maybe it's just me, but one actor playing 2 parts, playing the twins, I hate.
You didn't like Dead Ringers?
It was fine.
Mm-hmm.
You're always just like that's 2 Jeremy Ironses.
The more the merrier. A lot of irons in the fire.
The Deuce was always a problem for me.
Yeah.
Like putting aside everything by James Franco, I was just like I don't like twins. I don't like watching twins.
Okay. So you don't like
identical twins.
Canadians. You don't like identical twins.
And
you don't like curing Alzheimer's.
And I don't believe in the medical benefits of dinosaur DNA.
The movie looks super sick. It also has your guy Jack O'Connell in it.
My guy is eating right now.
He's definitely eating.
He's so good in Rogue Heroes this season. I just may have to have Mantzoukas come in because we have Shorzy coming in 2 weeks. And Rogue Heroes is cooking.
He needs to come in, but also because he bridges the gap between us. Because last week you recommended
But you have to
novel.
watch those shows, though.
No, but I'm just saying last week you recommended
Playworld,
and I recommended a Transformers comic book. And Mantzoukas texted us.
And showed copies of both.
He had both. He is our demographic. Speaking of James Franco, I did want to ask you, where are you? We're a week away from SNL 50. And I bring it up because I'm kind of interested and excited about this special.
Yeah.
My older daughter especially is kind of into SNL now and like watching clips and older episodes. And so I was like, we should watch ahead of this because the anniversary episode is coming. We should watch the SNL 40, which was, I think people know, 10 years ago.
Yes.
And I remembered watching it being like, this is such a fun party. Like it had a lot of SNL feelings of watching something live and chaos, slightly chaotic, but also everyone in the room was a big comedic celebrity and had their moment and had their shine. And it was really fun. And I fired it up to rewatch with her. And there were a couple things that I bumped on. One was the opening, and they're like announcing who's there. It's like Steve Martin, James Franco, Louis C.K. It was just like a list of people who won't be invited back.
Fallen soldiers.
So let's just say, like, those it was like an in memoriam segment, but at the wrong time of the show. I also didn't remember that it began with about a 7-minute rap medley from Jimmy Fallon and Justin Timberlake, which is something we used to really do in America.
Late period Obama Ted.
God, it was really felt like a billion years ago. And then the other problem was most of the show was just like montage tributes to Eddie Murphy's Gumby sketch.
Yes.
And I was like, pause. Okay, so, and then I was like, there's no version of me explaining this to you.
So is that on Saturday? This coming Saturday?
I believe so.
We're doing tonight's rewatchables is Blues Brothers.
Nice. Are you allowed to spoil that?
He spoiled it at the end of the Bill Simmons pod last night.
Because I saw Bill take shots at Sean for his Criterion.
That was very funny.
That was very good. It was very good. Not Criterion. Yeah, Letterboxd. Yes. He does it on Letterboxd.
Yes. All right, let's talk about Severance.
I have a couple positive things to say, and then I would like to have a conversation with you about what we're doing here.
Okay.
With this show.
This episode crystallized everything I like and don't like about the show.
Okay, that's fair.
I thought it was the crowning achievement of the series so far in terms of style.
Yes.
In my opinion, I thought it's Ben Stiller's tour de force. I thought it was so creative, such a great use of setting. I actually realized I don't know if preferred, but was very engaged by the fact that it looked like it was shot on film. A lot of the camera work was very handheld and close up and very inventive in that way. Not inventive, but just like a different visual language. And I felt like that suited the fish out of water experience of these people who are separated from their own identities while at work.
Mm-hmm.
It just exacerbated that. It made me feel like their alienation, that how strange it must be to wake up in a winter tundra like this. I just enjoyed that aspect of it so much.
Can I jump on the positive train for a second?
Man, join me.
It's incredible. Well, how much track is laid
Next
here?
stop. Yeah, okay.
Incredibly beautiful hour of television. Like, I totally agree with you. And it's not just the wildly striking images. It's that for the purpose of what we can only presume to be a one-off of this season, although, of course, we don't know anything, Stiller, it's not just reinvented the visual language of the show. It's almost as if he translated it into a different into a different language, a different setting, a different opportunity. Because much has been made of, and I think deservedly so, the way he shoots the severed floor, and what the purpose the walls serve, and the way the lenses he used makes everything feel labyrinthine and confusing. Yes. The endless white, the drop-down harsh lighting, the way everyone's faces appear with the sort of the almost like malignant banality of their existence. And then to take those same characters who we have only seen in
this almost highly artificial way.
Yes.
Yeah.
And put them into absolutely like brutalist nature, still very white, but with potentially endless vistas, or at least you want to feel that they are remote, that they are not safe in the way that they might be in the cocoon-like nature of the MDR room or even the floor or whatever the case may be. I was blown away by it.
Yeah.
And I think that people who want to make films or television would probably study this episode. They might want to do it on mute, but we'll get to that.
I'll keep going on positive tracks. Turturro was incredible in this episode. It was kind of his takeout. I thought he grounded it with like an emotional realism where otherwise it would have been easy to just find the show like spinning off into the atmosphere. It's pretty interesting to me. Like this season, rarely I would like to think pretty seasoned TV watcher and honestly pretty active consumer of Severance intel, like in terms of like theories about the show, breakdowns of episodes. I often start episodes just being like, what the fuck is going on? Like, where are we?
As do the characters.
What time is it? Like, when are we? And so Turturro, I think opening with Turturro was intentional. I think closing with Turturro was intentional. It was his arc. I think he is by far become the most compelling character to me. I love Zach Cherry, but I think watching Dylan constantly walk into scenes and say, what's going on? What the shit is happening? What the fuck? Where the fuck are we? Is kind of like, I want him to actually have more shit to say, more stuff to do. And I think even if it requires like some leaps of faith or suspension of disbelief to understand like Irving as the Sherlock of this entire conspiracy around this, like I still really enjoyed it. It was a real Legend of Zelda ass episode. Like there's just like a lot of what is the mechanics of this show rely on kind of like, of this episode at least, like real video gamey kind of like, you must go to the cave where you will find the book, and that through the book you will go and have meets, and then
a prophecy will emerge.
Yeah, it's like I think that my reading, like when I read about the show and when I like think about the show, I enjoy it way more than when I just watch it. And I don't know necessarily that that's a bad thing. You know, like when I read about what the seal was, like the dead animal in the forest, or, you know, if you don't, I listen to me and don't listen to me, I don't really care. I mean, it's like there's like a theory online that some of the stuff that's happening with Severance is related to the Montauk Project conspiracy theory of like that the U.S. Army was trying to invent time travel at this base on Montauk.
Cool.
And, you know, there was the Montauk seal a couple of years ago where like some weird animal washed up on shore. Irving, when he's doing the computing in his dream, it says Montauk in the upper left-hand corner. So like, I really enjoy piecing that stuff together. There's something that's a little bit arm distance for me because even something that's cool and weird and honestly, like for the people in the episode, the scene, emotional as Mark being seduced by, or not seduced by, but having sex with Helena, thinking it's Helly, but seeing his wife who may or may not be dead, or
but also wasn't his wife because he's a different person,
right? That stuff just doesn't like rise to the level of it, and on the whole. I've seen some people, and I really don't want to like make my reaction based on how positive other people are being, but I've seen people compare it to like Fishes from the Bear, or Pine Barrens, or International Assassin and shit like that. And it's just like those episodes to me were the culmination of things that had been happening in those series that led to this divergence being like, oh my God, what's happening? We're getting a whole episode that's a flashback and a dinner. And it's not it's apples and oranges, but I kind of feel like every episode of Severance is sort of this weird, has this happened before, or will this ever happen again?
I think that's
But I don't know if that's a criticism.
I think that's really well articulated because I think what you're saying is those episodes, and I'd like to get more into the reaction and why we make comparisons like that generally, but those episodes were Ortbows for GOAT series.
There you go.
Those episodes were the reward, the offsite for the time you spent in the kitchen or in the pork store or the bada bing or whatever, like the times you spent learning the contours of who these people were, so that when you then removed them from what their comfort zones or our comfort zones as audiences, we are all disoriented, but grounded in one shared thing, which is their humanity and who they are. This show, again, I'm not even starting criticisms yet, but this show does not seem interested in that. It is invested in disorientation and in constant waves of disorientation. There is no one version of it. At the end, after season 3, 4, or 5, who knows, that disorientation now may prove to be a boon. If this show is building towards something where these people must literally kill one other half of themselves or one version of themselves, not necessarily knowing who to root for from an omniscient audience point of view, might be an incredible opportunity as a viewer. That might not be something we've ever seen before. We don't know that, and we're not there yet. So I can't presume to say. All I can do is experience this episode to episode, much like Irving did. I just wake up and now we're doing this. And
well, Irving's the only one who's just like, there's something wrong here.
Yes.
And I think that's, for as interesting and cool as parts of this episode were, I kept waiting for a character to be like, what the fuck? And I guess that is what Dylan does too.
That's Dylan.
But he doesn't, not to the point where he's like, let's stop what we're doing here.
Because there is no clear dividing line. And we've said this before, like there's whimsy downstairs and there's whimsy upstairs. There's a character who can say, what the fuck? Wait, he died because he jerked off? And then another character banishes someone to death by saying forthwith.
Yeah.
Like it's whimsy all the way down. And so it's very, very hard to kind of understand where the walls are, what the stakes are. Not just I don't just blink my eyes open at the start of the episodes like a newborn every time because that's what the episodes are doing. It's because I'm not doing any of what you are in terms of research or supplemental reading. Everything you tell me is interesting to me.
I did my own research.
It's incredible. What's that blue stuff you've started drinking? I'm going to try it. It sounds amazing. But genuinely, like, I mean, I will say this every week, I guess, until people stop. It gets boring. But like, I lost vital years of my 20s and 30s chasing down rabbit holes of theories about Lost. Like, I am not immune from this. I love that stuff. And everything you bring up from your mining expeditions sounds really cool to me. What you just said about Montauk is awesome. If that's what the show is, wow, how interesting. But I'm not tracking that already. Yeah. And so similarly, the rewards, and I want, wait, let me just, before we even get into that, it's not just that Turturro was good all episode. Turturro in the last 12 minutes of the episode is god tier. He's amazing. He's an amazing actor. And like we were saying with Merritt Weaver last week, amazing actors can make me believe in anything.
Yes.
And his anguish and what he was doing and what he was doing it for and what it meant to him knowing there was a sacrifice, he communicated that with his performance. Similarly, if you were someone who has been cleverly sussing out that Helly wasn't Helly, that
you were sussing that out, weren't you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that was a guess that we made. That many people were saying, "Sir, that's not Helly R."
Yeah,
that's interesting and cool, and the way it was revealed and what it means about what she just did to Mark, or why she did it, or who she is and what she wants. Like that's all incredible grist for the story mill. And if you've been reading supplemental materials or posting about it on Reddit or wondering, like, this would be very gratifying. My thing is, I don't know who Helly is and I don't know who Helena is, and I'm not sure if I'm ever going to care.
Well,
so the distinction between them in terms of like, that's the big reveal, it leaves me as cold as they were at their campsite before Mr. Milchick introduced fire to them like some sort of white-clad Prometheus. So that your mileage may absolutely.
I see you cooking on those lines, dog. You still want to get in the blogs.
I want to mix it up. Do you know how many hyperlinks I put in there?
2,200 words on
some footnotes on a Tuesday. I would be eating on this without question. It's very hard, and I don't think we'll do this week to week. I hope we won't. Like to sort of say it's just not working for me, because on the level that I like to engage with TV shows, it's not working for me. I see the most beautiful, most considered, most labored over. Vulture has a really long piece about how this was like a 20-plus day shoot.
Cool article, yeah.
How they made this. I mean, things don't look like this, and it takes work, and it takes effort, and it takes an incredible production team. My personal subjective reaction is like when I see a Fabergé egg, where I'm like, that is incredibly intricate and beautiful, and it's kind of hollow on the inside. That's how I continually feel at the end of these episodes.
Well, I think part of it is that maybe there's a disproportionate amount of, we've had a disproportionate amount of dialogue about this show, A, compared to how much you may or may not like it, but
right.
B, we're only 4 episodes into this season, but it feels like something as like a question of the season should have emerged by now, and I guess part of that is, can Mark successfully reintegrate, although maybe he has. Part of it might be just, what is Lumen doing, and what is this computer program, Cold Harbor, that they're working on, and why is Mark so essential to this work? But so much of it is happening in the world of like, just it's all theory, it's all speculation, rather than the drama of the show kind of posing a question about like, what would you do if X? I think the first season actually had that engine revving, where it was like, why are these people, have they chosen more or less to separate themselves from their identities? I do find Britt Lower's performance quite good, and I think her character is by far the most fascinating to me, just because she is the inverse of the other people. Like the other people have left a life of heartache or loneliness or maybe dead-endness to kind of feel something else when they're at work, where she went from being the heir to this corporate behemoth and came into the office damaged, and is kind of like the rebel that sort of, to some extent, starts this fire in the first place, is her behavior. So I am most focused on her. But when it comes to that hollow feeling, I think part of it is that the show still hasn't put its wares out on the table and said, okay, this is what we're talking about.
Well, it's not fair to call it a mystery box, because a mystery box has one mystery inside of it, presumably. Like this,
who killed Laura Palmer?
This is it's an incredibly, incredibly expensive, ornate restaurant serving food that's like at the top of a building that spins at the same time, but also the city's built on a fault line, and also maybe it's not a city. Like there's no stable place to rest.
So like the Rainbow Room, but was on.
Remember the
San
spinning
Andreas
restaurants?
Fault? Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, I never went there. I don't like spinning.
No, exactly.
Oh.
I don't like spinning. That's everything. Yes, like that.
Okay.
That's my metaphor. That's the metaphorical hill I'm choosing to die on here. Also, what is your interest level in Egan mythology? It just seems like everybody's funnin'. Like I'm sure they're having a great time coming up with this stuff. and sometimes it is funny.
Well, you know, you do.
And the woe thing was creepy.
Woe was mad creepy.
I liked it. I liked the dream sequence a lot.
Yeah.
That was cool.
Yeah. If I had to guess, and if I had to sort of synthesize a lot of other people's kind of scholarship on this, it seems like it's about preserving consciousness in these computer programs to be uploaded to eternity or to another person or whatever, that they're working on cloning, that they're working on eternal life in some way. And that I guess that's interesting, but like, that is interesting. But the sort of issue is like at a certain point, I almost wonder whether or not the answer to what you're asking is going to be sufficient for the amount of mystery surrounding it.
And the mystery surrounding everything. It's mysteries.
But that being
top
said,
to bottom.
I guess I'm still enjoying the ride enough to not worry about that much, or to just read, Montauk Project.
Could you
Red Threads?
Could you do like a newsletter that just summarizes other people's? I like the way you use the word scholarship on this, and just kind of send it to me.
I mean, isn't that what this podcast is becoming?
Yeah, but I like a little more time to like do some sink-ins, think about it.
Right.
Like maybe I could ruminate on some of these things.
I'll start sending you my favorite theory of the week.
I just like, because if you pull back, this is an episode about a place where a guy killed his twin, which was a setup for
cranking it.
By cranking it.
No, yeah.
Before doing, yes.
Right?
He didn't kill him.
The forest killed him. Forest swallowed him for his self-pleasure.
For his seeds.
Yeah.
Right. He didn't die by cranking it.
No. What a legend if you had. My God, Dieter.
You go out what you do, go out doing what you love. Respect it. Like Brandon Graham harassing a quarterback. What a way to go. Like Kellen Moore dialing up movement. Legend. Retire a legend. No, but that's the overstory of the episode, and then it is the end of Irving's twin.
Yeah. Can I ask you a couple of follow-ups here? And you can say,
Yeah.
You can say pass if you're like, I don't care. But
Okay.
Engage with me or don't.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Eat with me or eat a box of bullets, as Hell Rel once said. Right?
Yeah, that's the third time we've quoted Hell Rel today, but we didn't identify the other two. So Eagle Eye listeners will know.
Like, do you feel like you're tracking how Irv is got the fucking drop on everybody here? Because I guess Irv's Audi life,
which we know nothing about really.
Well,
he paints.
I think there's some in the first season a little bit, but like all we've really seen is that phone call he makes at the payphone in the first episode of the second season, and that he seems to be having a little bit more of a porous, like remembering things when
the
he's
drawings
out.
are going back and forth.
And he's just like all over Helly. Now, I guess in the dream, when he sees Egan and he sees the eye and he sees woe, that's where it becomes clear to him that Helly is an Egan.
Yes, then the numbers sort of spell out Egan.
But that's, I guess, Irv's like, Irv's skepticism and his sort of depth of knowledge about like what's going on is surprising, since like everybody else, well, the other two guys are kind of blind.
There's a little bit of a jump for me. Like, I really like, and again, so much of this is Turturro's performance, but if you track the character from season 1, this is someone who loves
his job.
He loves his job, and he loves...
If you love your work, you never work a day in your life.
If your job is cranking it in a forest.
Or cranking it in a podcast studio, you know?
Yeah, literally. He likes the guardrails of this very mitigated existence and is thus very invested in everything. Not just, he's very invested in the rules and in the reward system when we first meet him, which I think is an easy jump then to he's very invested in these people and invested in their behavior and in them also being consistent. And he's very watchful and he's observant and he appreciates details like the paintings and things. So all of this on a character level absolutely makes sense that he would suss out something different in his coworker.
Yeah.
That she's an Egan seems like a pretty wild leap, unless it is directly connected to the dream.
The idea is like, who could have the power
to do that,
to make it down there as in their out.
Yeah, and then I guess you could say, I mean, there could have been a much longer scene where he's like, she might be a friend of the Egans. She is a longtime work colleague of Egan's. They're in a fantasy football league together. But instead, they edited that for time, and he just says he's an Egan. I'm okay with this.
Yeah, that's so good when he's just like, yeah, Seth.
I did like that.
Yeah, that was cool.
I mean, the show can turn it on.
Yeah.
It can flip the switch. It can engage the Glasgow protocols or whatever. And
The Glasgow block.
yes, that can work. I like that.
Okay. Do you ever find yourself wondering, like, where does it, like, what can innies remember about life?
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about this.
Versus, like, when they're like, because they've never seen this sky.
It's
and
just,
they're like, I don't think they actually ever let these fucking guys sleep.
That's what I wanted to bring up. The show, again, there's not enough real estate for some of the things that clearly it also is intrigued by. But the idea that they've never been outside before, but they kind of know the drill, except about some things that they're mystified by, but they're also not afraid.
Like, have they ever been that cold in their life?
No. Did they know what?
Because I would be cold. I would be like, where the fuck am I? It's freezing outside. I've been in, like, temperature-controlled room.
Yes. Wouldn't you just, like, run around touching everything? Shout out Dieter. You know what I mean? Like, isn't that how you would live your life? Like,
shout out young King Dieter.
That's my guy. He'd bury me a G, man. He's like, here I am in the woods.
The vines have taken me.
You sound like someone who's too online in 2011. The vines have taken me.
The band The Vines?
No, these short form videos that I'm being serviced.
They did take me.
They're funny.
They took me down.
Yeah. But like they've never slept before, let alone slept with other people before. Like, and I'm sure there were spirited conversations in the writer's room being like, yes, this is interesting, but we are also a propulsive serialized television show, and we can't just have them look like 15-year-olds on ecstasy being like, whoa. So that makes sense. But what they've experienced and why they are the way they are is curious to me, as well as is any of that pre-selected? Like, is the technology of the severing so much that they know words and language?
They can dial it in. Yeah, right. I've made this comment before about, like, there's not a lot of signifiers of outside life other than Rickon being a not successful author on the outside, or not really, and now he's like a legend on the inside.
I think
I kind of was like, because I wondered whether or not the thing that freaked Turturro or Irving out in the beginning of the episode is this thing that's been freaking me out or bothering me, which is, wouldn't they notice? But I guess now wouldn't they have to have noticed when they woke up out there that it's still winter, and that Milchick was like, you were gone for 5 months.
No, but they don't know what seasons are.
But
or do they? Yeah.
Okay. I guess so. I guess you're right. I guess that's why they come across a fucking monster seal and they're just like, what's that? I don't know.
I also think that one of the things that is very, very, very hard to...
Because I would be like, you pay me to fucking data process. Like, why are we here?
But also, and then maybe, again, I've learned my lesson with this. So maybe the next episode we'll do the A side to this B side.
Okay.
Meaning we will actually see what they said to the 3 outies of these people, being like, you need to lend us your bodies for longer than your workday, or, like an overnight. You need to be out of your lives, and here's what we'll pay you, or here's why it's worthwhile. Because, again, I'm not Dieter. I'm not sacrificing my body to the woods. Like,
is Dieter your favorite Severance character?
In over the last 90 seconds, it's starting to seem like he is. I respect it. You know what I mean?
Just a young king.
Like the Eagles, he leaves it all out on the field, quite literally. I like those comments. Like, it's not one of the things that I circle back to this often is talking about how the show was a brilliant pilot. When you write a pilot, you're writing checks that you will never have to cash. And one of the most essential ones to this brilliant idea is, why would anyone do this? And the first season, and even into the second season, has done a solid job of showing us people who are trapped in their lives. Although I think this season's instances I think there needs to be more Irving, honestly, to see that as well. But generally, why they would need this job over others. But there's still more layers to that question, including, why would you actually sacrifice your bodily autonomy and put your life at risk if this company is taking your body somewhere?
Right.
That is a weird...
Mark has a mission. Mark wants to figure out what's going on
so he's going to say
dead
yes.
wife. Dylan is like, I guess, the person I am in the inside world has more dignity, or like is of greater a greater object of respect for my wife than the person I am on the outside world.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Irving seems incredibly lonely. on the outside world.
And that hurt him.
And found love in the inside world.
Yeah.
But now it's like brokenhearted again.
And as you're saying this, there are things like...
And Elena's just a narc.
I mean, do you remember one of the more memorable scenes from the first season was Irving's conversation with Mrs. Casey, where she just says platitudes to him about he enjoys music and things and what that meant to him. So the idea that there was some sort of consistent loneliness or like consistent meaning across both versions, something that is just essential to who these people are. That's an interesting observation. I think it's also an interesting thread for them to be playing with going forward.
How would you feel if you came into this office and you just didn't know the Eagles, what they were?
I would hate it.
Well, you wouldn't know.
I would feel an enormous lack, and I would also have all this time to like parent and think about, maybe read books, and that's a bummer. I do have a feeling that the desire to proclaim things the best or the best since, or to compare this to Pine Barrens or something.
Discourse.
Well, it's just that I think that there's an essential, there is a unmet desire for things to always be as good as they used to be in music and everything. Like we have to keep the balloon in the air, that like everything is always going to keep pushing boundaries and being great and greater and amazing. I feel like America is a living case study, and that's not true. But also that the way that we collectively as TV fans or as culture fans loved our engagement as much as we loved the show. So Pine Barrens is a unequivocally brilliant hour of television. It is a psychological study above all else. It stands apart from what is, inarguably one of the greatest TV shows of all time. And then there's also a discourse around it. And there was a fan of The Sopranos who legitimately, good faith, loves the show, who was like, in the finale, is Tony going to get whacked by the Russian they left?
Yeah.
In a way, the two endings of Breaking Bad kind of went right at that too.
Yeah.
That there's two kinds of fan. Emily Nussbaum wrote about that, saying there was a bad fan. That's specifically in the case of Breaking Bad, who wanted the villain to succeed. So that's not the best comparison to make. I just mean generally, and I am certainly I fall victim to this too. Where like you're a fan of the way things made us feel and the way it made our mind race with excitement. And I do feel some of that lifting up this show and pulling it apart. Even though what is it called? Like what kind of meats?
Fine meats.
Whatever.
Yes,
like that, I'm not sure if this particular carcass that they brought with them is worthy of this level of dissection.
Yeah.
There's a fandom for fandom that might be at play a little bit here. But that's also just maybe me saying, like, back off my Pine Barrens. Like,
I'm gonna imitate Tom Brady by going, "Time will tell, KB."
It's literally that's exactly it. That's exactly it. Maybe all of my mood today is influenced by the fact that there was a lot of rush to anoint someone the GOAT.
Well, also, I wonder whether watching Severance after the Super Bowl was the proper.
Are you outing me?
Well, what's wrong with watching it after the Super Bowl? You can watch it before, you can watch it after. It's not a timer on it.
I mean, I'm
saying like everything is context. Right?
I could have fired up. I'll just say this: if I had fired up Pine Barrens and Fishes after the Super Bowl, I would have been like, these don't make me feel as good as the last 5 hours of my life.
There's nothing that would
fair.
have matched our timelines last night.
Yeah, that's true.
It's been great talking to you today. I feel like we've been here for 3 hours, but maybe it's just the accumulation of time.
Is Kaya still here? Did she know she signed up for a football podcast?
We're going to be back on Thursday. What are we going to talk about? We'll see. Probably the pit.
Oh, I think we promised Paradise. We promised Paradise.
We'll catch up on Paradise. And then White Lotus is back on Sunday. We're going to probably drop our recap episode Sunday night. So maybe we'll take a week off Severance.
That's cool.
Let us just go back into the forest and replenish ourselves.
Do you think he was I'm going to have to unpack this metaphor, because in this, are you picking up what he was putting down? What are you doing?
No. Thanks to Kaya. Thanks to CT. We will be back on Thursday. Greenwald, great to see you, man.
Will I see you at the parade on Friday?
Dude, don't tempt me with a good time.
I wish. Go Birds.